for part 2 of factoring trinomials. This board may look very similar to the last one for part 1 of this, and that's because I'm using basically the same information that I gave you for the other one. I did tell you the difference today is there is a number, a coefficient in front of the squared term. You need to learn how to handle that, and many students, that's where they have trouble. Well, the first thing you want to look at is I can't factor out the 2. It's not a common factor. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to show you. Again, that's a minus. When that's a minus, I know that I have different signs. So I'm going to put a plus here and a minus here. I'm going to take and put a 2x here and a 2x here. Now, at this point, we know that if I were to start to FOIL this, no matter what these numbers are, when I multiply 2x times 2x, I'm going to get 4x squared, not the 2x squared that's at the beginning of this trinomial. But as long as you don't forget to do the last step, we're going to take care of that, and it's not going to cause us a problem at all. So, going up here, I need a product that's the same as A times C. Now, that's what we used last time, but our A was always 1. In this case, it's not. So, A times C is 18. And because this is a minus, I'm looking for a difference of 3. What gives you a product of 18, but a difference of 3? It's not 2 times 9. But 6 times 3 will work. And remember, this sign gives me the sign of the larger number. The larger number is 6, and that sign is a plus. So I'm going to put the 6 next to the plus sign. And that means the 3 has to go there. Now, I told you that this isn't going to be the right answer. But what you need to do, when you put a 2x here and a 2x here, you introduced an extra factor of 2. We need to get rid of that factor. Well, looking at this, you should be able to see that I can divide a 2 out of this factor. 2x and 6, I can divide a 2 out of. The 2x minus 3, I can't divide anything out of that. But that's okay, because all I needed to do was divide out a 2. And when I divide that out, that's going to give you x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. And if you were to FOIL that, you should see that you will end up with 2x squared plus 3x minus 9. Okay, you might be thinking, that looked good, but am I going to be able to do that? And am I going to be able to do that with every problem? Well, you should be able to. Let's look at the next problem. We have 5n squared plus 19n plus 12. We're going to set up our parentheses. I'm going to put a 5n here and a 5n here. The plus tells me the signs are the same. And this plus tells me they're both going to be positive. I'm looking for a product that's the same as 5 times 12, which is 60. And I'm looking for a sum that's the same as 19. Well, 5 times 12, that gives me a sum of 17. That's not 19, but it's close, so don't go too far away from that. 10 times 6 isn't going to work. But 15 times 9, 15 times 4 gives me a product of 60, and it gives me a sum of 19. Since the signs are the same, I can put the 15 here and the 4 there. Now remember, we're not finished yet. Look at that and see what can I divide out. Remember, I have to divide out a factor of 5 somewhere. Well, I can divide a 5 out of this factor. And since I don't need this over here anymore, we'll get rid of that. That's going to give me n plus 3 times 5n plus 4. And that's all you have to do. The more you practice these, the better you'll get. The next problem I have is 15x squared minus 27x minus 6. Now I chose this because you can't forget what we did when we first learned how to factor. Oh, way back, probably in a pre-algebra class somewhere. What can you take out of all 3 factors? Well, 3 goes into 15, 3 goes into 27, and 3 goes into 6. So start by taking out the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is 3. You can't get rid of that. That's one of the factors, so you leave that out front. And when I divide that out, it gives me 5x squared minus 9x minus 2. Now, although I have a trinomial that still has a number in front of the x squared, the numbers are going to be a lot easier to work with. So when you can take out a greatest common factor, make sure you do that first. So that 3 is going to stay out front, and I'm going to set up my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to bring down a 5x and a 5x. Remember, right now I'm only working with that polynomial. I've already taken out the 3, so I don't have to worry about the larger numbers. This sign tells me that I'm going to have different signs. So I'm going to put a plus here and a minus here. I need a product that's the same as 5 times 2, which is 10. And because that's a minus, I need a difference of 9. 3 times 3 doesn't work. Don't forget, 10 times 1 is a product of 10. 10 minus 1 is a difference of 9. Now, the first sign gives me the sign of the larger number. So the 10 has to go next to the minus sign. So the 10 goes there, and the 1 goes there. Now, I still have this 5 that I introduced that has to be divided out. Where can I divide it out? Well, it won't come out of this factor. It will come out of this factor. Now, I've had students who have forgotten this last step. That's a very important step. You cannot forget to take that out at the end. So, don't forget the 3. That is still one of the factors. And we have 5x plus 1. And this is going to give us x minus 2. We have 3 factors for this one because 3 was the first factor that we took out. We have 4m squared minus 15m minus 25. Now that I did one with a common factor, you should know we've got to look and make sure. Well, 5 goes into 25 and it goes into 15, but it won't go into 4. There are no factors of 4 that go into 15 and 25. So this is what we're going to factor. We start with 4m in the beginning of our parentheses. The minus tells us that we have different signs. And then I'm looking for a product that's the same as 4 times 25. That's 100. And I'm looking for a difference of 15. Well, 4 times 25 does not give me a difference of 15. 10 times 10 doesn't give me a difference of 15. What else is there? $20 times 5 gives you 100. And 20 minus 5 gives you 15. Now, what do we put here? Well, let's go back. We have 20 and 5. 20 is the largest number, and 20 has to go next to the minus sign. So we're going to put 20 there, and we're going to put 5 there. Now we still need to divide out the 4. I can divide 4 out of the second factor. So the first factor remains 4m plus 5. And the second factor is m minus 5. Again, if you FOIL that, you will end up with a polynomial that we started with. I have one more example that I want to work with you. It has something that often causes students difficulties. We have a negative 6a squared minus 25a minus 25. Well, there's no number that will go into 6 and 25. And what do I do when I have a minus in the front? Do I bring it down? That makes it difficult. Whenever you have a minus in front of the squared term, factor out a negative 1. or simply a negative. You can write -1 or you can write negative. And that's going to give us 6a squared plus 25a plus 25. Make sure to rewrite the whole polynomial because you do have to change every one of the signs when you factor a negative out front. Now we have a negative out front. And we can simply set up our factoring, and we're now working with all positive signs. So we're going to put a 6a here and a 6a here. That tells us the signs are the same, and that tells us they're both positive. So we have a plus and a plus. We're looking for a product that's the same as 6 times 25. Well, 6 quarters is $1.50, so that's $1.50. And I'm looking for a sum, because this was a plus, I'm looking for a sum of 25. Well, if you look at 150, it's not going to be 6 times 25. That's not going to give us a sum. But what else factors into 150? Well, 15 times 10 and 15 plus 10 gives me 25. So I have 15 and 10. They're both plus signs, so it doesn't matter where I put them. 15 and 10. Now, the difficulty here is I need to factor out that 6. 6 doesn't go into 15, and 6 doesn't go into 10. What are we going to do? 6a plus 15. You can factor a 3 out of that. A 6a and a 10, you can factor 2 out of that. If I take out a 3 and a 2, 3 times 2 is 6, and that gives me the factor of 6 that I needed to take out. This is the first problem where we took something out of both factors. And if you notice, there isn't anywhere else I could get other factors that would work. So this leaves me with an answer of minus, don't forget that. If I factor 3 out of this, I get 2a plus 5. And when I factor 2 out of this, I get 3a plus 5. So although I'm running out of room here, there's your final answer. Practice this method. You are going to desperately need to be able to factor for this class. When you get into simplifying rational numbers, you have to factor the polynomial in the numerator and the polynomial in the denominator and see if they have common factors. It's going to be very helpful if you can factor quickly and easily. You can't have incorrect signs or incorrect numbers. So practice this. I will put a worksheet online for you to work through. And I think you'll see that this works out very, very well. If you've done these in the past and you have no trouble factoring, I am not trying to change your method of factoring. I'm just going to try to help you do problems that you've had difficulties with in the past.